So you went from Harvard to the Army to just to be a soldier and to go and not do nice things to people.
Kill them. The first that is was noticeable to me was when I was writing the first book, The Dancing Woolly Masters, which is about quantum physics and other aspects of physics. And I was invited to a meeting of physicists at the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory. And I was really in San Francisco. And these physicists were talking about this question: are we creating the reality that we're experimenting with? And I was taken by that, because that is the very question that my small group of arrogant intellectual males like me, like I was at the time, was discussing, except these were world-class theoretical physicists. And I got so excited, and I decided to write a book about what I was learning. And as I did, I wrote an outline for each chapter. But I threw the outlines away almost at once because they seemed dry, dead, boring compared to where my energy went. I would start to write the first chapter about the outline, and suddenly I knew it should be about this. And that went that way every chapter. And then after 6 months, because I was writing about a chapter a month, a dim thought crystallized in my mind. These chapters are fitting together like they were written to be together. But I didn't do it. So how did that happen? And that was the writing session in which I experienced non-physical reality. I knew that I was not writing this chapter alone. I knew that it was not possible to be alone. I felt it. I knew it. It wasn't as though I could describe it, but it was everywhere. And it was warm in a friendly way. And it was there. So that was the first increment. That's the first time. That's one of the ironies of my life, that I first learned about non-physical reality while I was writing a book about quantum physics. And that would be the first increment. And then there were many after that. This first book was not like the others, and some of the others. This first book was not like a channel or like I used my intellect. I had to read a lot of physics papers from Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, Erwin Schrödinger, Max Born. And so I was using my intellect. And it was fun. I liked doing that. But the title itself, The Dancing Woolly Masters, the theme of the book, which wasn't overstated in the least, was that physicists believe that they are discovering reality. And the dancing woolly masters know that they are dancing with Kali, the Hindu goddess, who is the illusion. And that is the theme. Now, whenever I came back to that in the book, that's where I felt what you're talking about. And I experience it as a good feeling. I know this is good, this is satisfying. My knowledge of Hinduism was limited to Ram Dass's wonderful book, Be Here Now. But as I understood it, Kali represents the illusion. So the most significant, important thing in your life is like a trinket on her anklet, and it tinkles as she dances. It's big. And so the Hindus do the only thing they can. They can't control it, they can't manipulate it, they honor it. That was my understanding of Kali, and that's what guided me in writing The Dancing Woolly Masters as it emerged. But it was mostly, no, it wouldn't, because it was brought to my attention that even in that book about physics, there is something authentic, something about the power of consciousness that makes it appealing and it calls to people. There's something mysterious in language and science. In fact, when I was reminded of that, I went back to words that were in the book. For example, quantum physics, quote, challenges the hegemony of the intellect. That means the rule of the intellect, the power of the intellect. And I started to see so many things in retrospect about quantum physics. I knew that this book took everyone, including the physicists who were formulating it at the time, between 1905 and 1927, right up to the limits of the intellect. And the result was Niels Bohr's famous complementarity. He said the question is light a particle phenomena, particle-like, or is it wave-like? And I won't go into that history, but there were definitive experiments that proved, without question, unarguably, that light is wave-like. It was called Young's double-slit experiment. And there's another experiment that proved unequivocally, unarguably, that light is particle-like. That was Einstein's 1905 particle theory. But that's what he won the Nobel Prize for, not for relativity. So they had these two things. Light is particle-like, unquestionably. Light is wave-like, unquestionably, and the two are mutually exclusive. Waves are spread out, particles are confined in space. And so Bohr's complementarity was this. He said his conclusion is we cannot know reality, although he used the word nature with a capital N. We cannot know nature as it really is. It depends upon the experiment. The experimenter chooses to do a double-slit experiment and proves and sees for himself that light, or for herself, that light is wave-like, and the reverse. Chooses Einstein's experiment and sees for himself, that light is particle-like. These two are complementary. It's just complementarity. We cannot ever know reality. I remembered that. I remembered Werner Heisenberg is famous for something called the uncertainty principle. Suppose you want to look at something in the subatomic realm, like in the old days, it would be called an electron revolving around a nucleus. How do you do that? So we'll have to look at it. Well, how do you look at it? You shine light on it. As soon as you shine light on an electron revolving around a nucleus, you knock it out of its orbit. And now you don't know where it is. Do you see what I mean? Observation changes the observed. We cannot know nature, reality, as it really is. These things all came flooding back to me when it was pointed out to me that they existed in the dancing woolly masters. And that is what drew people to it. And it's also a wonderful book on the history of quantum physics, and it was fun to write, so it's fun to read. There is no single perception that can encompass the universe. And I asked once, Linda Francis, my beloved, my spiritual partner, have two teachers, and I asked one of them about something. Should I write this book? Should I not? And the answer was, Gary, there's no path waiting for you that you can follow in the future. You are creating it in the moment. You decide. And that is not a theme, but a reality that has come to me more and more and more as my consciousness changes. I was taught that there is an epic, unprecedented transformation in human consciousness that is happening now. It's recent, and it's happening within a few human generations. 3, I was taught. And one of those generations has already come. We would call them millennial. And this new human consciousness is very different from the old human consciousness. The old human consciousness was limited to the 5 senses. And its understanding of power was manipulation and control, the ability to do those things. The new consciousness is not limited to the 5 senses. So instead of being 5 sensory, we are now becoming multi-sensory. We have another sensory system in addition to the 5 senses. And our understanding of power has changed. It is now the alignment of the personality with the soul, which means with harmony, with cooperation, with sharing, with reverence for mind. And soul becomes a reality. It's not a reality to 5 sensory humans. For them, it's Sunday school topic or theological or philosophical at best. But for multi-sensory humans with soul, is a reality. Let me put it this way. Multisensory humans know somehow, they sense that there are more than minds and bodies. There are more than muscles and molecules and enzymes and synapses. And that more is a part of themselves that existed before they were born and that will continue to exist after they die. That is what we are calling the soul. It's a Western term. In Hinduism, it might be called Atman. Whatever it is, it doesn't die when you do. And it was there before you. We become aware, sense as we're multisensory. So now, what do we do with that? For me, as I've been taught, it's necessary to create the new understanding of power. The new consciousness is a gift in the universe, but the new power is not. It's a potential of the new consciousness. And the way to create, the only way to create authentic power, by the way, is it means alignment of the personality with the soul. It also means the ability to distinguish within yourself between love and fear at every moment. To distinguish in yourself between these two things. No matter what is going on inside of you, such as hopelessness, depression, despair, rage, competitiveness, or what is going on outside of you, like a fire over the mountain, burning a huge city, or a 9/11 event. And choose love, no matter what. That's authentic power. It's the ability, it's the experience of being able to move through the earth scoop, that's our environment here, with an empowered heart, without attachment to the outcome. I must do it. No one can do it for me. And here's how I must do it if I'm going to do it. I must be able to distinguish between love and fear. And I can do that through emotional awareness, which means knowing whether fear is active in me or love is active in me by looking inside, not outside, inside, and see what I'm feeling in my energy processing centers, in the east chakras. So if I want to know if I'm in love or fear, I look inside. And if I'm in fear, I look in my, say, chest area, and I look for physical sensations, not happy, sad, buoyant, yes, this is it, I'm high, I'm low. No. Instead, to look for physical sensations. In the upper right portion of my chest area, I feel a stabbing sensation. And in my solar plexus, I feel a burning across the entire area. And in my upper left chest area, I feel a throbbing. And in my throat, I feel a constriction, a contraction. In the middle of my throat, about the size of a ping pong ball. That's emotional literacy. And that's what you develop as you develop emotional awareness. And if you are in fear, which means if a frightened part of your personality is active, those are the kinds of physical sensations you'll experience. And if you look at what that part of your personality is thinking, it's always thinking comparative, judgmental thoughts. Like, I'll never wear a mask. This is more than I can do. Or, I know this. Why are they teaching me this? Or, I'm so stupid. Or, she's so stupid. These are thoughts of fear. By fear, I don't mean fear and trembling. I'm talking about experiences such as anger, jealousy, resentment, inferiority, superiority, competitiveness. Every obsession, compulsion, and addiction, all of that is fear. And opposed to that, literally opposed to that, because one aspect of this earth school is duality. For every this, there's a that. And the opposite of love is fear. It's not hate. So we experience fear as gratitude. Pardon me, I misspoke. We experience love as gratitude, appreciation, care and contentment, patience, all of the universe. And the thoughts are always thoughts of those things: gratitude, appreciation, patience, contentment. So creating authentic power requires me to distinguish between those. And while I am experiencing a frightened part of my personality, which is painful and magnetically attractive, it is right and righteous. It wants me to argue. It wants to win. It wants to compete. It wants to manipulate the external world. That's what a frightened part does. It pursues external power. Oh, and the thing I forgot to tell you about external power is that in the new consciousness, it's destructive. It used to be our good medicine. Now it's poison. It creates only violence and destruction. So, when you can experience a frightened part of your personality fully, not ever attempt to suppress it or repress it or deny it, but experience it, and then choose to act from a loving part of your personality, that is the moment of creating authentic power. And as you do that again and again and again, the frightened part begins to lose its control over you. And eventually its control over you disappears. That's the process I was taught. So now what happens when it comes to collective creation? Well, first of all, there's never creating alone. I learned that in that first experience. It's impossible to be alone. You cannot, because you cannot be alone. Now, when you are involved in creating authentic power, we have people that come to our events, and they're on a New Age buffet. Take a little bit of this to try that, and this tastes good. I think I'll stay here, have that next meal. But after a while, they begin to realize, this is not a New Age thing. This is my life that I'm changing. It's my life. And then they really begin to engage. And when they do that, they start to be open to spiritual partners. A spiritual partnership is a partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth. That's what Linda and I have. Yes, we're married, but it was for other reason. Our relationship is spiritual partnership. And spiritual partners can assist one another in creating authentic power. They can't do it for one another. So how do they do that? A child dies, or your relationship unraveled, or your business fails. A friend will say, that's all right. It's going to get better. Don't be. You're a great looking woman, and as a guy over in accounting's been looking at you for 4 months, and I'll introduce you, and things are going to be okay. Or, I know I had a child that died, and this is what it was, but that gets. In other words, friends address the frightened parts of one another's personality. They try to assuage. That's worthless. But a spiritual partnership will say things like, why are you feeling better? Did that come from what you just said or what you just did? A frightened part of your personality or a loving part of your personality? Or what was your intention for saying that? They'll try to support you. They will support you as best they can in creating authentic power. And then you're really in a co-creative endeavor. Now, this doesn't mean you have to have spiritual partners to create authentic power. We can be on the street or on the freeway and somebody does something that offends you, and suddenly a frightened part comes up. You want to wave him off with a finger, or you want to shout at him, or you want to dismiss him. That is when you create authentic power. You look inward and away from what you think caused that, which is the outside world. That just triggered an internal dynamic in you. You look at that dynamic in the ways that I just explained, and you challenge it and choose not to act from that, and instead act from a loving part of your personality, the best that you can. You reach for it. The time when you knew you were loved and you were loved. And when you do that, you create different consequences for yourself. If you reach with the intention of love, you create constructive, good-feeling consequences. And if you reach with the intention of fear, you create the opposite, destructive, painful consequences. So as you do that, the world becomes an ongoing heartfulness meditation. You strive to be aware of what you're feeling every moment, and what you're acting every moment. And by the way, the best way you can be of service to someone else, if you want to use those terms, service, support, is to create authentic power in yourself. That is the support you can give. That is what you can offer. And that doesn't mean you are doing this formulaically, like, oh, you're in pain? Where did that come from? What are you feeling? No, it's not that. I love this kind of deal. The connection, that's spiritual partnership. Spiritual partners know that they have a soul each. They know that there is a reason for their being together. And they know that reason has to do with their soul. And so when they recognize one another, they experiment. And those experiments become their spiritual partnerships. And I was taught, not so much in terms of wounding, but in terms of cause and effect. That for every cause, there is an effect. And if you participate in the cause, you participate in the effect. And when you feel wounded, when you feel hurt, betrayed, look inside yourself, not at that, or not at it as a thing that happened, but look inside yourself at what experiences it's creating in you, what your emotional awareness is showing you, and then what response instead of reaction. A response is a conscious choice. Every choice of love is a conscious choice. To be aware and choose love. And every choice of fear, that is, every choice that is unconscious is a choice of fear. And here's the thing, it creates pain. It creates consequences for you, not for that frightened part of your personality that acted in fear. By the way, just maybe to put another piece of the picture in far, what I was taught is that an intention is a quality of consciousness. Most people think it's a goal. If I speak with the intention of love from love, that quality of consciousness, love, infuses my words and my deeds. And if I speak with the intention of fear, which I will do if I'm not aware of my intention, that energy, that quality of consciousness infuses my words and my deeds and creates different consequences. So this is all of one fabric, but you start at the beginning, which is your own commitment to change yourself. And that's why you're here. That's why you're with the four winds. You can't change yourself unless you know what it is in yourself you want to change. I'm going to go back to the first one. What is love? It's the universe. It's what is. It's what you are. It's what I am. It's what everyone is. Like I was told, like I mentioned that to you, you are on a journey from love to love. What happens between the beginning of that journey and the end of that journey is your life. When I speak of the universe, I mean with a capital first letter, or with love, or consciousness, or life, I'm talking about the same thing. It's what is, it's what you are. And so it's not a tool. Love is not a tool. It's a way of being. Let me put it this way. I asked one of our teachers, what is love? And I got several different answers at different times, but the one that remained with me forever is love is a fire that's out of control. It cannot. But when you love, you cannot stop loving. You cannot love. I cannot love Alberto without loving these plants. I can't love Linda, my beloved. And these things didn't all come to me in a rush. That's why I said at the beginning, all of what I know did not change what I am. It changed my awareness incrementally. And this is where I am now. And I suggest to you that you not take anything that I say is so because I say it. But instead, if you resonate with anything, experiment with it. Try it out in your life. And if it creates what you want, experiment some more, because that's what your life is for. It's to experiment. And if it doesn't work for you, let it go. I asked a teacher once, I want to be conscious when I die. I want to experience fully. And he said, then start by learning to live fully and consciously. What I've been told is that a birth into the earth school is the entrance of a part of your soul into the domain of time and space and matter and fear. It is voluntary. I was also told by my teacher, if you knew what was required to come onto this planet, you would walk every step with a deep sense of gratitude and appreciation. And he said, as it is, there are billions of people upon your planet that wish they weren't on it, with deep senses of fear and frustration and brutality, humiliation and anger and judgment. And these are all the things of your. And later, in another discussion we can have, they result from a lack of reverence. So death. It just as a birth is a conscious entrance into the earth school of a part of a soul, the death of a personality is the return home to non-physical reality of the soul that incarnated as that incarnation. For example, I love Linda's incarnation. She's beautiful. She connects in a way that people remember for years. She's playful. She's joyful. She's also focused. She can run things. She did run things for years. But that incarnation is gone and it's not coming back. It is dead. But the energy that incarnated is. And so the energy and the love and the voice and this of what was in the incarnation of Linda Francis is still there. I'm still in communication with it. And I've tried to understand a lot of things that I've been taught as this, my awareness has expanded. And at one point, and at another point, and another, until I finally got the point, my teacher said, you've now reached the limit of your intellect. It cannot take you farther. You've exhausted its usefulness, was another term. And as multisensory humans, we now have a replacement. It's the higher order logic and understandings of the heart. The intellect was designed to work with the five senses, but it cannot communicate or grasp multisensory perception. So this means that emotions, the heart, are at the heart of creating authentic power. It is. So when a soul returns home, just that part of the soul that incarnated returned home. And I was taught that when the soul decides to return home, and it's the personality, it's the soul that decides, not the personality. Nothing can stop it. Nothing. So I was taught all of these things, and I eventually found that I thought I understood it. I thought this is getting pretty cool. But then, at one point, our teachers, who are not stern teachers, and they can have a lightness like Pasquale. They can be, in my limited experience, but they're always accurate, spot on, and they never tell me what to do. Well, there are two exceptions, but they always show me more about my experiences so that I can understand them better and use them better. So I'm sorry.
You still miss Linda?
Oh, at first the pain was terrible. It was more than I could imagine. But I knew that nothing happens in my life that isn't for my spiritual growth. And I want to offer that to you. Oprah always says, well, for sure. Well, this is one of the things I know for sure. Nothing happens in your life that does not serve your spiritual growth. Now, this pain that I experienced was like a mountain bigger than this mountain. I couldn't go over it, around it, through it. I couldn't dig under it. It was there, and it wasn't moving. So I decided, I really decided, I will not squander this. I will not distract myself in it. I will not squander this pain. And that, I believe, had its effect. I say I believe because I don't know the connection, but I feel it. 2 days later, I was sitting by a pond, watching the trees move in the breeze, and an awareness came to me. Thought, I don't have a reason for living anymore, except to love people. And that never left. I might have said that before. I hope I didn't, but I think I probably did.
You did.
Yeah. But now it's so. Yeah. So this is, we're talking about death. This is what we can, I want to follow your questions, but this is part of an awareness that is expanded in me, and has it continued to expand into a place where I'll show you what I mean by moving beyond the limits of my intellect. For example, a teacher told me one day, Gary, the universe is inside you. Come on. I didn't say that to the teacher, but I thought, I can't tell that to anyone because they're going to think I'm narcissistic or solipsistic or delusional. But I started to experiment. I look at what's around me, and I say, that's the world, that's the universe, outside. And I play this game. I say, now I'm going to pretend it's inside. It's inside. Now I'm going to go back to the when it really is. It's outside, it's outside. I went back and forth, and at a certain time, I couldn't go back to the outside part. It's inside. And then I had questions. Well, wait a minute, if the universe is inside me, what about Alberto? What about you? You're all off creating consequences and doing things in the world. And the teacher said, you are not responsible for the universe once you realize it's inside you. You are responsible for your choices. And there's more and more and more that has come into my awareness. And I want to go back all the way to what is death. Because one of the more startling things to me was, in this process, and the teacher, one of them would say, told me, well, at a certain point he said, Gary, you have entered a new phase of your evolution. Mark this day. I said, well, what's going to be different? And he said, you'll no longer need to record and transcribe what I tell you and then study it and learn from it, because you will partake of it. And that's been happening since. I can't tell you that there's no words to express now, except some that we're teaching. For example, this is, Gary, you are not perceptions. And I share this with you. You are your perceptions. You're not having them. You're not experiencing them. You are your perceptions. Create authentic power. I was told that the earth is a living presence. It's an entity. And this living entity exists with or without us. And it is, he put it this way, it is host to a co-creative species. And we are that species. One of the things that I'm learning, that I learned from my Sue uncle, and Linda's Sue uncle, and that I'm especially getting here, and one of the reasons I came here, is to experience, first of all, you again after 25 years, and Marcella, but also I knew that you had some challenge. I didn't know they'd be here when I got here, and I'm delighted that they are, and that you have brought not the cosmology, but the cosmos of the shaman here for people to experience and use and benefit. And that has deepened my understanding of what our teacher told me about the nature of the earth, that it is an entity, a living entity.
It is alive.
It is alive. It is alive.
And she is conscious.
teacher told me once, he said, Gary, you may think that writing a chapter is more important than picking a flower. And he said, but how do you know that picking that flower is not something that the earth required to maintain its balance of you to do? I am a unique expression of the universe, and so are you. And so are you.